And that motto really, every time I hear it, gives me a little, flutter inside, a little chill, because we really do mean it. We really live by it. We are not always perfect, and the deputy clerks and myself can make mistakes. But let me tell you what, we have really worked hard over the last decade to ensure it is a work environment, it's a work group where their number one motivation is to be helpful, though. Okay, our mission is actually to make accurate information accessible to all. Accurate information accessible to all, because we are major record keepers, as you all know, right? So we hold on to the official court record. We organize a lot of those records. We serve records on people at times, get them to you. We intake them, we send them out. We're all about records. And that's just the courtside functions, which we'll talk about today. I know that's your interest. But we also have county side functions to where we hold the official land records for the entire county of Volusia as well. So I'm sure some of you are aware of that, deeds, mortgages, liens, all kinds of things like that. Those are also in our custody. We also have historical records. You can't believe the amazing historical records we have in our custody. If any of you are big history buffs, we do have a historical records room right in the DeLand courthouse that you can come and ask to see and be given kind of a tour. There are some incredible records. So anyway, we are big time into records. That is our job, is to make information accessible. But as far as how we conduct ourselves in our business, we really live by, we love helping people. So I hope that's what you've experienced with our office, and feel free to always contact me if you ever have any major issues. I'll give you my easiest email address. It's laura@clerk.org. I just put it in the chat, okay? And it's going to be on our agenda. So I'm really glad to have you all here today. I thank the Volusia Bar so much for thinking of this. It really is going to be very similar to a presentation I did a while back for the Volusia County Paralegals Association. And if you all don't mind, if I could do a shameless plug for them real quick. Do you mind, Sarah? They are building membership. It's going pretty well. The leaders said, I think at their last meeting, it was their highest attendance ever. But it has been, I've been in it since conception. I attend as often as possible, almost every time. This organization is to help your paralegals. So if I do have more attorneys on this call, one advantage is I'm asking you to please consider allowing your paralegal to join the Volusia Paralegals Association. Because if I'm honest, when it comes to the clerk's office, mainly that's who we're interacting with. And I mean, that's on purpose. I know you all are focused more on the content, the substantive arguments in your case. You're more focused on your client, and the big picture things. The little nitty gritty about procedure and how do you file this and why is this taking long and did I make a mistake? What happens to mistakes at the clerk's office? Things like that. That's mainly being handled by your staff. So your paralegals and your legal assistants. So I just, really strongly just ask you, please, 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 if you're from a law firm and you're on the call, will you please ask your paralegals to begin attending? And I don't think it's very expensive to join. It would be really worth your money if you want to pay that fee on their behalf, because I'm there constantly. They publish newsletters. We give tips on how to make it go better, how to not have your pleadings rejected. I give it's just a tremendous resource that will help you, because I don't really think you as attorneys want your number one job to be staying abreast of what the new electronic filing regulations are, okay? So I hope that makes sense, and I really ask that you would all join. I don't know if they have anything we could provide a link to in the chat, maybe, Sarah, I don't know. But I'm just gonna ask you for that first. Okay, so let me stop with my shameless plug. I'm gonna go ahead and share screen and look at our sort of agenda here today. We've had some fun issues this morning trying to work this out, so let's all hope this goes well. Did that pop up yeah, it did. Okay, so everybody can see our agenda here. All right, so what you should be seeing at the top, of course, is that we're on the CLE and the title of it, and then there again is my email address. If any of you would like to jot that down, if you ever needed anything, when you can't work it out with my staff, feel free to reach out to me. I also have an in-house legal counsel like I used to be, so I can also refer to our attorney to get back to your research issues. And then, of course, does everybody here know clerk.org? Is everybody here at least familiar with the fact you can go to www.clerk.org, and there's tremendous resources. All your court records are there. you can do a lot on our website. So I hope you're all really familiar with clerk.org. Okay, so today I wanted to start how we did. Now, this has been a while now, but maybe this, I think it'd still be useful to you. I almost wanted to remove it because this opinion came out back in March 20th and it went into effect, I want to say July 1st or whenever that went into effect, maybe shortly thereafter on April. So it's kind of old news. It was this big rule package that got passed by the Florida Supreme Court from the Rules of General Practice and Judicial Administration. That is a body that promulgates rules that unfortunately a lot of attorneys, it used to just be called the Rules of Judicial Administration. And because it said that, most practicing attorneys and paralegals kind of ignored that rule body because it sounded like it was just for judges. So they renamed it because honestly, there's a lot in that rule that's about that technicality of filing, the rules around filing, more of your procedural end. But that's where all that resides, how you go about confidential information in court filings. What happens? What are you supposed to do? All of that belongs there. So they renamed it. Used to be easy. We called it the RJA. Now it's the RGPJA. But to make it more clear to you all, this is about general practice. Okay. So there was a big old body. I wanted to take you real quick. Let's see if this is going to work too. We've had some technical difficulties this morning, but I just wanted to take you and show you. Am I screen sharing that website? Okay. There is a whole website by this rule body, and it really is worth, even if you yourself are a trial, practitioner and you're not going to worry about this kind of thing, then assign it to someone. Maybe somebody in the firm, some paralegal could be responsible to kind of keep up with the goings on of this committee. They pass an awful lot of rules that sometimes do end up with a lot of impact on your firm's practice. And I have found in my many, many, many years of attending and watching closely everything this rulemaking body does, there are far too few attorneys that are even aware of it. Okay, so another suggestion I have for you as clerk is if you have a larger firm where you have the staff, assign somebody to be watching the different rule proposals and giving those a skim and seeing what they think of those, because you can always make comment. Okay, so I just wanted to show you that website. Okay, and am I back to my agenda now? Okay, sorry, I'm just having a hard time trusting this because we had some issues earlier. Okay, so that body that I've been talking about that I think you should be aware of, the RGBJA, they did publish a large body of work that we all called, everybody ended up calling it this, the E-Everything rules. Because prior, they had been going kind of piecemeal through rules as technology developed and saying things like, let's see, we could serve by email. Okay, let's tweak the one service rule over here. And let's say that now that, you could email to server. Ooh, we have an electronic filing portal. Let's tweak this one on submission of documents to the court to talk about and it was kind of piecemeal. So they decided, look, a lot of it needs an overhaul because technology is moving fast and we've changed some of what we expect from litigants and attorneys based on technology. So they took every rule that had anything to do with anything electronic and put them all in one big old package and passed this massive body of rules called the E-Everything rules. It was in Supreme Court 2023, 1401. Okay, so I have a link there to show you that, but it's rather unwieldy because it's long. I think I opened it. Oh, that's right. I already had all these open, didn't I, Sarah? On purpose before this, I opened everything for y'all so I'd be quicker, and then I forgot I did it. Okay, so here we are. Here's just a look of this. They had to issue a corrected opinion on March 20th of 2025, and that's when it all started really kicking in. And you can see here, they worked on things about your electronic signature, the e-filing portal, computing and extending time. They changed time frames based on technology. Signature and certificates of attorneys and parties, service of pleadings and documents change. That's a big one. And then electronic filing. So this massive opinion, they talked quite a bit about what they did here, and then you'll see what follows is just a huge body of changed rules. So I, knowing this was kind of a lot to grasp, we wrote an article for, I think it was the Volusia Bar. Yes, it was, wasn't it? So we wrote an article for the Volusia Bar, and hopefully if you all keep up with your Volusia Bar news, you got this, to warn you all about something when it happened. So one of the main changes in that, for purposes of between clerk and attorneys, the point of this call today, one of the main effects that one had, we tried to drill down into some more detail to warn everyone. So I'm just going to kind of walk you through some of this. So prior to these amendments, the clerk's office, and especially my people with the we love helping people philosophy, they would really go out of their way a lot of the time. The clerk's office had the discretion to reject documents filed through the e-portal. Now, hear me, upon request from practitioners, meaning, and I don't know how many of you are aware of this, but sometimes your paralegal, and it might have been yourself, maybe you've experienced it, but let's say it's usually your paralegal had filed a document and then realized there was a big mistake in it. Something was left out. They had filed it into the wrong case, whatever the deal was, filed the totally wrong pleading. We do see a lot of cut and paste errors where you'll have wrong party names because they were cutting and pasting from another document. So it used to be when people would realize they had these errors, they could, I gave examples, incorrect case number, lack of signature, erroneous filing. They could call us and say, hey, could you grab that out of the queue? Don't file it into the court file all messed up like that. Could you throw it back to me in the correction queue and let me fix it? Okay. So as a courtesy, clerk staff could place the items in the correction queue. Also, when we caught obvious mistakes, my staff would go, wow, we get which case it's supposed to be. A bunch of this is wrong. And they would do courtesy calls or emails to the filer, put it in the correction queue for them to keep, I'll try to say it in a nice way, sloppy work or, improperly done documents. You don't really want this kind of thing showing up in the court file. It can irritate judges. It can give your opponent, the other side, something to grab onto. So as a courtesy, we would place them in there either upon your request, or sometimes we'd do it and call you and say, hey, you had a mistake there. You sure you don't want to look at that? Under the new rule, they said, no more of this. However the work is submitted, they didn't want clerks intervening and helping in this way, and they didn't want people having that second chance to correct mistakes. So they ended up saying the clerk can only reject and place a document in the correction queue for the following specific reasons. And then they gave us 7 limited reasons. You will notice none of the reasons on there are that we were asked to put it in the correction queue as a courtesy. Okay, so we now no longer even have the authority to do that. Now, humans will be humans, and my people are, we love helping people. So it wouldn't surprise me terribly if I found out that every now and again someone is tempted to call you all and tell you instead of following this, but we are supposed to put those documents straight through as they are. So I thought that's still relevant for you all to know because, understand that if there are errors in some of the documents or you do get any pushback about error documents, this safety net that used to help your staff and help you all is technically legally gone. So we can only reject now if there's no way we can figure out the case number that case is supposed to go into. It says lacks a correct case number, but it has to be, and we cannot reliably and easily establish which case you meant to file it in. So it isn't as simple as just, oh, look, they got one number wrong in the case number, we can give it back. No, we can't, because guess what? It is super easy for us to figure out which case it belonged in because we have lots of other identifiers besides the case number. So for the most part, wrong case numbers are now going in how they were. If it lacks a case style completely or has the wrong case style, we're allowed to reject for that. If it consists of multiple documents filed as one document, that's where you have somebody that thinks it's okay to scan maybe 5 separate legal pleadings into one big PDF and then e-file it. You can't do it that way. Unfortunately, think about for a judge, the point in the docket is for the judge and yourselves to be able to use it. So if a motion and a notice of hearing and a request for interrogatories, if multiple documents are filed as one giant PDF, it's going to get docketed as whatever that first page says it is. So now nobody can find the rest of these pleadings because all the judge will see is motion. Well, you had 5 other things there. You're unable from the e-portal to break them into separate documents for you. So that's one reason we can push it back. On the converse, you put a document that should have been one, but somebody just scanned 5 pages at a time and sent us 5 pages at a time. E-portal and the technology does not allow us to take multiple filings and create a document for you either, so we can give them back. If it's a proposed order, we can send it back because those aren't supposed to come to the clerk's office. They're supposed to go to the judges. If it's illegible, corrupt, or blank, or if it's barred by order of the court or is incapable of being filed in our system. So that's more like there's been a vexatious litigant type of something filed and they filed and weren't supposed to. Okay. So to make it really clear, we warned all of your paralegals back when, or yourselves back when this came out, the clerk will now be required to accept and docket any document that does not fall within one of the enumerated reasons, even if it contains errors. We will have to put ones in the correction queue where it tells us that we have to. If it is one of those 7 and we used to work it out with you instead of rejecting it, now we have to. So motions to continue that include proposed orders will be rejected from now on because we're not allowed to accept proposed orders, so don't attach them. Notices of appearance filed together as one document with a notice of intent to participate in discovery will also be rejected. Now, you may want to notice something. I'm giving these specific examples based on feedback from my staff that to deal with this day in and day out, those are common errors. Okay, we wouldn't have pointed those out specifically if that didn't happen a lot. Additionally, simple requests for document rejection due to mistakes that aren't included can no longer be accommodated. Now, it does have in the new rules that when they go in the correction queue, from now on, they'll remain there for 30 days. And I think that is longer. So it gives you a longer period to do corrections. So if yourselves or one of your staff has made a mistake and it did end up in the correction queue, it will be there for 30 days. And you can file a new document that cures the reason for rejection or take no action. So we just urged everybody to please review the rules. We also did want to help, this is a little beyond clerk world. However, we realized there's some important highlights in the rules that some of you may have missed since this isn't a very popular rule group. And so we did give you a short some recaps on some of the major points, like computing and extending time. They've now replaced midnight with 11:59 and 59 seconds to avoid confusion. Okay, whether the midnight falls at the beginning or the end of the day. So midnight is at the beginning of the day from now on. The mail rule, the additional 5 days for calculating time, applies when service is made only by mail, but it does not apply when there's email service or e-service. There's also a lot about signatures and representations to the court, okay? So just make sure you're familiar with those. Every filed or served document must be signed or it may be stricken by the court, and the action may proceed as though the document had not been signed. So just failure of signature can cause it, in which, we can't reject for, really. Acts constituting a signature, the act of filing a document equates to signing a document. Make sure your ePortal account used to file the document is the correct one. I know some of you may share credentials all around, but just remember that from now on, whoever files it, those credentials, that will mean that whoever's credentials it was e-filed under, that's considered to be the official signing of the document. So do be careful about those sharing of passwords if you don't want that someone else's signature imputed to your document. And then there are other things. I'm trying to hit you the ones I think you would be most interested in. Service through the portal. Most of you should be used to that by now, and your staff that you must file through the portal. They do have about certificate of service. Attorneys must file through the portal, including when they're representing themselves. And then docketing by clerk, non-compliant documents, corrections queue. That was the ones that we already went over. Okay, so I had said in the article, it's just a summary of 10 of the many changes in the rule packet, but be sure to read them. So I wanted to share that with you today in case that article missed you or in case you were not informed of that. And it may help you. I did want to go over it with you all too, in case you are starting to see an uptick in having like, whoa, why did this document make it in there? That's a mistake. Please understand what your paralegals are going through, as they do not have that extra service from the clerk that we used to be able to provide, and that is not their fault. Okay. But on the other hand, I am asking you to please do emphasize accuracy in your practices, because mistakes do have a little bit more of an impact when it comes to actual official court documents because of these rules. Okay. Now, I don't think I'm able to see do we have any chat questions? Does anybody have any questions, concerns at all about that topic, or I will move on?
I'm not seeing any questions in the chat currently, but if anyone has any questions, please feel free to type them in the chat.
And I meant to, this gives me one moment for this. I did mean to. Antonio Jaimes, which is Jaimes, you may see him as a participant there. He is the general counsel, the legal counsel. We actually call him the chief legal officer here at the clerk's office for me, that replaced me, because that's what I used to be before I became the elected clerk. And so he's on the call today, and he'd always be happy to be helpful to any of you. And if you don't mind, maybe let him control his own mute, Sarah, or you can unmute if you needed to, right, Antonio, because he may chime in if he feels like I've missed something on any particular topic. Antonio, was there anything else about the everything rules that and we had no questions. I think everybody's okay, but anything else that you'd want me to cover on that?
No, I think you got it all, Laura. The only thing I will say is that because I do serve on the, I call it RJ, there's still proposals because this rule got passed, but there's other things that are coming up that, this rule may warrant further change, but right now it's still in the committees. The other thing is that if the proposed orders are not allowed to be filed through the e-portal, but if you want to preserve the record, you have to file a notice of filing along with it, and that way you can file the order through the e-portal. That's
True.
the only thing I would add.
I forgot about that. You're right. So he was, if everybody heard him, he's saying if you need to file a proposed order, it's substantive to the to preserve, then you do it through a notice of filing. So if it's a notice of filing of the actual order, then we can take it. We just can't take proposed order attached to other motions or separately. Okay, thank you, AJ.
Mhm.
All right, so this one, this next thing I have to show you all, is really actually big news. Now, the timeline on it has gotten a little wonky because there are several political moves happening, and then it turned out the development effort behind what I'm getting ready to tell you was a little more significant than they expected. So I used to have an absolute timeline, now it's a little more uncertain, but I have big news. I don't know if some of you've heard this elsewhere. There is well, I wanted to start with, there is a group called the Florida Courts Technology Commission. Now, that is another group that I feel in my many, many years going to that, I've been going to even the precursors to this commission. It is now a permanent and standing and large and powerful commission promulgated from the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court created them, but it used to be separate committees. There was a privacy committee and an access committee. There were all these bizarre committees when I first started working for the clerk's office as her first in-house legal counsel, because there were so many debates going on around technology. So clerks way earlier than when I started in 2004 had already been digitizing court records so that internally we had a system we could go on and say, instead of pulling paper files, hey, I need you to look at such and such case, see what's going on. I think there was an error. You're not doing that. You're popping up on a screen. So when I got here in 2004, you guys, this clerk's office was already digitized in like civil and family cases way back. I mean, we had full blown, all electronic everything. At that time when I got here, all judges were still completely in paper. Nobody had any interest in going electronic. So as you can imagine, as things progressed, it got very complicated. So now, of course, we do have it where it's far more electronic. Judges eventually under Chief Judge, anyway, I can't remember his name right. Perkins, under Chief Judge Perkins, he did finally mandate the judges to convert to our case management system that had all the court pleadings they needed it electronically right there on the screen. So he finally did mandate that, and we pretty much left the paper world, other than the little bit we're still required to handle from pro se individuals or other exceptions to the rule. However, okay, so after all these weird committees, when they realized computers are here to stay, technology isn't going anywhere, and these issues just keep getting more and more and more complex, they were building rules around all this stuff. They finally said, let's have a full-blown commission called the FCTC. There are some attorneys on it, but it is way underattended for the impact these people have. And I'm not trying to make them sound terrible, but they can make some decisions that just rock everybody's world. And so I do encourage, here's another one, ask a paralegal or somebody to keep track of what they are doing, depending on your needs. And once they figure out what's going on with this commission, you may even want to send people to some of their meetings. Myself, my chief information officer, go almost every single meeting. I have a conflict coming up this week where I can't, but there's one coming up this week, and it shows you all their meeting information. If you go to that website that I'm displaying, they have a little tab that'll take you to all of their meetings. And they show you exactly what's going on. They have subcommittees like this one, the CMS Standards Subcommittee. That's about standards required for clerk systems, what's worked for the judges, what works for you guys. Could be attorneys have a frustration with, case management systems. That's where you go to talk about it. So you see here on Friday, November 7th, they're going to be having a full-blown meeting. Okay, and the meeting materials are available there. So you could just assign somebody to, skim their materials every once in a while, make sure it's nothing you'd want to have any input in, because these are public meetings. You can come and speak. And I just think it's way underattended for the impact that they have. But so this group is the one that officially does, is over all of the technology decisions concerning how we use tech in court records and how you may not. Okay, so that's where a lot of this comes from. Well, CCIS, I just want you to be aware of them. Let's move on to CCIS. CCIS, I don't know if anybody knows what that is. I wish I had a prize to give out, because if somebody could name what that is, I'd be so proud of you. But CCIS is a statewide system that it is not a database itself, but I call it a shell. What it is it's a system that is built to pull information from other systems and give you one unified place in which to view them. Okay. So there is a system called CCIS. It is funded by Florida statute. So the legislature wanted this thing to exist because we all know one of the frustrations for you all as attorneys is that there are 67 different clerks. So if you practice in multiple counties, any of you practice in more than just Volusia County? Yeah, I bet some of you do. If you practice in more than one county, yourself or your staff has to go through the hurdle and the burden of switching between different clerk websites to look up the case, to go see what happened. Has the hearing been set yet? And they're going to multiple counties' websites into their case management systems. So CCIS is a statewide system that's existed for quite some time now that is able to receive, like upon query, it's able to pull data from all 67 clerk systems and make them available in one interface. So you could go on and look for your client's name in any county in the state of Florida. Or, you can pull up cases if you have them pending in multiple counties, you'd be able to find that all in one place. So it is an amazing thing that's out there. And so all this time, though, CCIS has only been permissible for government agency access. So government agencies all over the state of Florida, I'm talking thousands and thousands. I wish I'd gotten the stat on how many users CCIS currently has, a more recent updated, but it is very, very many. I know at one point it was 36,000, something like that. Okay. So it's being used behind the scenes by agencies all over the state. So any government agency can get some level of CCIS access. However, of course, some of the attorneys at the Florida Courts Technology Commission and attorneys elsewhere have said, wow, that would be awesome for us to have. And they've been working on trying to figure out how to make it secure enough to be able to do so for a really long time. Well, lo and behold, I am on many committees, statewide committees affecting clerks and courts, some for the Supreme Court, some for the body of clerks. So I happen to be on one called the Strategic Technology Committee. That's a clerk committee where we do plan for how to strategically use technology into the future. And I'm on that one. And then I'm on the E-Filing Authority Board, and I'm on the CCIS subcommittee. So I am on 3 major technology related committees. So I have the pleasure to be able to report to you that 2 of the bodies, the Strategic Technology Committee and the CCIS committee, the clerks that comprise the membership of those boards, have voted. It's already done deal for 2 out of the 3 committees to move forward with our association who runs the CCIS system doing the work required to make this releasable to attorneys and subscribers. If we could have just done attorneys first, this could be done already. We could have done it a lot earlier. The problem is there are a lot of protests to that attorneys should not have some exclusive access that the media and the public cannot get. So we've for years now had to lockstep everything we do because we used to do, like, attorneys had access to our system here at this clerk's office way before the public. And then we had to bring on the public in a limited capacity, but we're really not allowed to do that anymore to prioritize attorney access. So now they have to get it configured to where they can even have public subscribers be able to at least access any public documents. So I say all that to say it is going to take a minute. The first prediction was it would be done definitely within 2026. I'm hoping that still holds, but because of the reason to have to bring in the pro se filers and the public and the media to also be able to see court documents all around the state. Some of those security protocols, which are dictated by the Supreme Court, by the way. Clerks don't just decide, oh, I want to let you see this document type, but you people, you don't get to see it. That's all in a published document called the security matrix. Okay. So we have to follow the security matrix. So to program that big unwieldy system with the full-blown security matrix to control privacy of documents and to release what's appropriate, it's a big programmatic effort. So I wouldn't be shocked if they don't end up extending that maybe into early or mid 2027. But the first prediction was definitely within 2026, mid to late 2026. So I thought you guys might be really happy to hear that because it is going to be a real game changer for attorneys. So I have access to it. So I'm going to give you guys a sneak peek. Okay. So you see here, let me just walk you through a little bit of this. This is our statewide association clerks. We are independently elected constitutional officers, so we have no collective power. So we do voluntarily, almost all of us belong to an association called the Florida Court Clerks and Comptrollers. It gives us a legislative and advocacy voice and some other things we needed to unify to get done. I won't go into my whole thing about how underfunded clerks are. But if there's any time left on this call, I'll at least give you a smidgen about that because it does affect the service I'm able to give you. We're extremely underfunded, worse than most government agencies, believe it or not. So anyway, this is driven by CCIS, it's called the Comprehensive Case Information System. That's the answer for what CCIS stands for, driven by our association. Now, right now, see how it says for governmental use only? It's offered by Florida Clerks of Court in a secured single point of search for statewide court case information, judicial community, state and local law enforcement, state agencies, and the Florida legislature. Okay. Other information we have, you need to go to our websites and sign into our systems, etc. Okay. So I believe just by giving you all a view, I'm not violating anything because I'm going to give you a view of what it looks like when you do get in. So look at this. Now, can you all see it relatively well in that screen share? Sarah, is it clear? Okay, because I don't know if I can do anything to improve it, but I would if I could. I really want y'all to see this. So this is what it would look like. So it is not, don't get too excited. It's not as savvy as like a Westlaw or LexisNexis. You can't go in and say, pull me up, I'd like to see, I have to do a motion to something and I'd like to see other sample documents of it. So let me just run a topic search and it'll give me all these motions. It's not that awesome. It really is more just a database of finding particular cases or finding particular people. But you can do some sample pleading, shopping, or kind of seeing what's going on out there. You can do that in one way is that you can do date ranges. So let's say I had said, I'd like to see from October 1st to, I'm going to do a short date range just because I don't want us to have to go through me figuring out what the date range is. Let's do a short one I know should work. Let's just do through the 10th. Okay, let's do 10 days of filings we want to see in, let's see. I don't know if it'll let you just do, but you could do it like this. You could say, I want to see circuit civil pleadings in, let's pick Brevard. That might be a manageable number. I'm trying to think something that isn't going to give us such a massive search that it's going to say no. Exclude attorneys, exclude judges. Let me see if that will work. No, my bad. I'm sorry. You do have to drill it down. It's pretty basic. You have to have either a name that you can enter of someone, a business name that might have been involved, or the actual case. You could pick the county, the year it happened, what type of court it was, as much as you can identify and hit search, and it can pull things that way. Here's the date range search. So this is county court type. Let's see if we can do it this way. Let's do Brevard and pick CA. This might be how to do what I was trying to do. And you would search. Okay, it's filing the 4th for me. Oh no, that's November 4th now. Let's do 9th. Ah, it does work. Okay, so let's say you just wanted to see the kinds of cases going on in another county and wanted to drill down into some of those documents and see some sample documents. You can run a county in a date range, and here's every single case in that category that got filed in that county in that date range. Okay, so there are multiple ways to search. So let's say we picked one, and we did. So I just clicked one for the heck of it to see what it is. You then have options to start searching that party. So let's say you have a party you're dealing with on the other side or your side, and you want to figure out what's going on in litigation anywhere in the state, then you could actually start drilling down and searching what's going on by that party throughout the state. Okay. It should have, I had wanted to be able to show you all right now. Okay. Well, I'm not great with this yet because we have, since I'm the clerk here of Volusia County, we really do mainly focus on Volusia County cases. So I'm very familiar with our system, but not so much of these. I'll be darned. But this thing is amazing. Okay. So look at that, y'all. Drilled down enough and I could even pull up the complaint. And this is out of Brevard County. We ran a date range, we picked it. So isn't that kind of cool? It's gonna be like, just like what you can do on our local, where you can search for things and see documents easily from your office, but all over the state, which you would get to drive by what it is you are looking for. So I think there is a lot of excitement about this fact this is going to open up. I was at a lunch and learn from the defense bar, and there were private defense attorneys and there were some attorneys from the public defender's office. And when I shared that this was going to come open to all attorneys, the couple public defender attorneys that were there gave testimony to everyone else that they cannot even picture life without this thing. Like they were so happy for everyone else. I am telling you, if you're a multi-county practitioner, yourselves, your paralegals, this is going to be a game changer. It really even can be used for looking at what happened in other cases. Can I see other documents? So I hope you all have enjoyed hearing that news. Okay. That is one of my biggest fun things to share. So I will keep you all, my commitment to you is, I'm on the last committee that has not done the final approval yet, and they're only holding on for that reason because of some of the programmatic efforts so we can get a more solid timeline and an update. But I assume we'll be voting on that probably pretty soon. We have a meeting soon. It's called the E-Filing Authority Board. I would think it will go through that final stage of approval. I have kind of preemptively, on the call, because it's a public meeting, but on the call asked if there was any plans that we had any sense that anyone was against this progressing. And they said, no, we promise we're only delaying the vote because of some technicalities, but we should have full steam support going ahead. There is a legislator that has gotten involved. He, I believe, is an attorney or somehow connected to the legal world, and he found out this is a possibility and how much of a game changer it would be for all attorneys. And so he was like, you guys better get it done. So it may even get legislative support. So it should be pretty fail-proof that this is going to happen. I just don't have the when. Now, when I can get, since I'm on all these committees, I will know immediately what the date projected is, and I will let the Volusia Bar know, and we'll do an announcement, I'll do an article, and I'll let the Volusia County Paralegals Association know, because you are going to want to run, not walk, and sign up for this thing. Okay. Okay, so any other questions? I'm sorry I demonstrated so much of it. I was hoping you all might be able to be impressed by how fun this is going to be. But does anybody have any other questions? Want to know anything else about CCIS? And you'll need to help me, honey, because with the share screen, I can't see the chat.
Yeah, no problem. We did get a question. Are you okay with sharing these notes? Could you send them to me and I'll send them out?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Because that way you guys can click these links too. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So I will do that
Okay.
to all the registrants.
And I'll have to make sure. I'm sure that once the link is passed on and you click it, it won't take you right to my username and password. I'm pretty sure it won't.
No, I don't think so.
I would hate to accidentally leak CCIS. Because one of the problems with it right now, in their defense that it's taking a while, you guys, is it's already challenging for us here, to sort through. There are rules that dictate which items we must automatically protect in case records, and there are 25, I think, categories of information that clerks must automatically protect. And then, like I said, there is that big security matrix from the Supreme Court themselves that says exactly down to case category. Anyway, it doesn't tell us per docket, but it tells us per category whether cases are generally public, whether they are completely non-public, whether there's a mix, which we call VOR, which means it's a case type that, the public or the attorneys could see, but you need to review it first and redact anything that might be in it, like family law cases. They're full of social security numbers, bank accounts, minors, dates of birth, all kinds of stuff. So most of those document types are set to viewable on request. You have to click it and ask us for it. We look for it, redact it real quick and send it back to you. And we do prioritize those to the extent I have staff left to do it. So hopefully we get those to you quickly when you do have to request something that's been protected. But in their defense, that's all very complicated. It takes a ton of our time here, just even locally, and they've got to master that much security for a gigantic statewide database. If you have any doubts about how huge we're talking, let me give you some stats for Volusia County real quick. In Volusia County, just Volusia County alone, and I know this is a fact because we did a server transition and it counts per document, so I really do have accurate numbers on this. Just on the court side alone, forget about my official land records and all the county side records, tax deeds, marriage records, all that. Just the court side alone, we've been digitizing for quite some time. We have over, in Volusia County, 60 million digitized images for court records. Now that number that I just swore to you was accurate, we did that conversion about a year ago. So add another year's worth of court filings to those numbers. About a year ago, over 60 million, it was over 100 million for Volusia County in total, but the court is even larger than the official record set of records. So just in Volusia County alone, we have over 100 million digitized images to managing by security, quality, all that. Of that over 100 million, over 60 million of them are on the court side. So all of those have to be programmatically dealt with through these layers of security. So you're talking a Herculean task because that's just documents, not pages. So when I say we have over 60 million court documents digitized in Volusia County, some are one page, some are 10, some are 100, so pages wise, the number we probably don't have language for that number. So it is just a massive, massive undertaking, but we're confident they can get it done. The benefit to you all will be unparalleled. You already have the statewide e-filing portal, which I know is a little bit different from county to county, but that's getting more uniform. We made the big leap and went to complex filing a while back. We were resistant because we liked it to be easy for you all. So it used to be just throw your document and send it to us. That was about it. Now you have to fill in party names and all kinds of stuff, but that was the direction of the state to go that way so that automation can increase because we have to find technology solutions for the lack of funding. So we don't have humans so much anymore. So we're having to go down that road. But that's relatively uniform, the e-filing portal, and now you would have statewide access. It will still have some nuances from county to county because they left a lot of discretion to clerks when it comes down to docket rows, what to display or not display. So you may find even on CCIS, you're able to get some documents in one county and another one is less forthcoming with those documents. But we're all aware that's something that would need to be worked out. So hopefully by the time CCIS rolls out, we can get a little more uniform standards throughout the state. I'm for standardization so that you have a more smooth experience between different language and docket codes and things like this from clerk's office to clerk's office. So there is a pilot now going on to start to standardize all that. So I'm for standardization. I hope it'll help you. All right, we ready to move on to our next one? We're almost done here. Yep. Okay, anybody else? All right, so on Unified Family Court, this is super short. I don't have any links or anything really to tell you. This is just, I happen to be on this Supreme Court Steering Committee that's called the Florida Supreme Court Steering Committee on Families and Children in the Courts. So it's the FCC. Very confusing for us in clerk world because our association is called FCCC. So all the F's and C's around here, it'll just get you sometimes. So this is a steering committee that is very serious. They are a big old body of judges, mainly judges, attorneys, practitioners, government agencies dealing with families and children, and one clerk, myself. It's a blast being there, let me tell you, as the lone clerk. So this is a large committee that meets quarterly like clockwork. We have these big things called charges. They're subcommittees basically, but they have major work products to do. I got named as the chair of the charge on Unified Family Court to try to figure out how can we use technology to relate cases, because you all know the court's theory, the Supreme Court's theory is, it's mainly child driven, but where there's a family unit, especially when a child is involved, they want to try to have all the different case types that might affect that child under one judge. So there's not a disillusion, judgment coming out of one court saying something about custody, but then over here you've got the child and juvenile, and there's different juvenile delinquency, and there's rules around that. but oops, things blew up. They removed the child. There's a dependency case pending over here. You can picture how this could get, where you've got conflicting orders or people not understanding the dynamic of the family. So there's been a long-term push for UFC. Well, we do have unified family court here in Volusia. We capture certain data elements to be able to relate those cases. So we really go above and beyond to add data elements that aren't necessarily relevant to the case. They're not public, but we have them behind the scenes in the system. Like, why would you need to have a child in a dissolution of marriage exact date of birth? Well, because without it, if you haven't told me who the children are, if there is a dependency case, how would I ever relate it to that original family? So we capture lots of extra data, as much as we can find in the pleadings behind the scenes. And we've built a pretty sophisticated automaticity. It's not AI. I'm sorry. I don't love the idea of AI in court records right at this moment yet. I don't want to making up anything about court records, but we do a lot of automaticity, which is very similar. You just, it's programmatic, and a programmatic bot can learn to do the same actions based on certain triggers. So we do have built-in automaticity that is really effective at looking through data fields and relating cases. So we have a very actually effective unified family court practice here in Volusia. It turns out that's not the case largely around the state. So in my role as the chair of that charge, we are now working on identifying data elements that it's going to affect everybody, because here's the deal. If they're that determined to be able to relate all these cases, then right now, when you go on the e-portal, you're only required to put in certain fields. That would ultimately expand. And it is going to feel like, what on earth? This is just a name change, but I'm having to give who my kids are or whatever. There will be a reason. So I just kind of wanted to throw out there to everybody that data element requirements on your family related cases will be increasing, and you will see that, and that is because of this desire to unify those cases. Okay, now that I saved this for last because this might be one of the more interesting points for those of you that are frustrated by this. On the VCPA teaching, I shared something I think a lot of people don't know, and I know there's a lot of frustration around this. I'd like to take this opportunity to tell you why it's like this in Volusia County. Volusia is a little different about proposed and executed orders, and it does cause problems. I'm going to tell you that from the get-go. We just have not yet gotten agreement from all the parties to go forward with what would be a very difficult solution. So we're still hoping, and your voices could be important to that. So let me explain to you what the deal is. So in a lot of other counties, you may have noticed, if you're a multi-county practitioner, you can, when you're on the portal and your staff is on the e-portal and they're filing court documents, when it's time for the proposed order, just do it through the portal. There's a separate queue. You can send the proposed order. It goes to a judicial queue, and you're right there on the same system. And it's kind of more streamlined. The orders just get submitted just like you would any other document, easy peasy. Unfortunately, in Volusia County, that is not the case. Right now, there are standing orders in most of the divisions. You file everything else to the e-portal to the clerk, but when it comes to proposed orders, if you're not aware of this, be aware this is what your staff goes through. They then have to pull up an email, put that judicial email, whatever the division, the division email of whichever judge is waiting for that proposed order, and they have to separately attach it to an email and email it to the judicial division. They can't, so now you're in two different things. You're pulling up emails, you're doing that this way instead of being in the portal like everybody else. Number one, of course, from my own selfish interest, it's not because of us. We're not making you do that for any reason. It's not the clerk's office. We'd be happy if the portal was able to take your orders and send them to the judge, or send them wherever. We're fine with it. The problem is the technology limitation, and this is the same for executed orders. So you notice you have this weird proposed order thing in Volusia, also on executed orders. Here, unlike other counties in Volusia, executed orders can take a minute to get to you, and it's faster in other counties, and that's because same problem. The tech of the judicial system that's being used only has one pathway for communication, and that pathway is already used up by the clerk's preparation of orders in criminal cases, because we prepare everything in the criminal cases, and it has to be able to leave us and then go through the judicial system to the judges for signature. Well, because that tech system only has one communication pathway, it's already being used. So if they were to allow proposed orders to come to them through the portal, or leave from them straight to the portal and go to you super fast, like the minute they signed it, it's appearing in your email, like it probably does in some other counties, In order for them to do that, it would break their current judicial viewer. So they really have had to make a good decision between being able to have orders prepared in criminal courts, or do you want to have smoother order processing? And they chose to stick with being able to have the clerks prepare all their orders in criminal courts. So their system has a tech limitation that will not allow any other coming and going at this time, unless and until a day where they found it relevant enough to come up with the money and the time it would take and all the hard work and cost to having that system develop a whole second or third pathway. Okay. So right now what happens is you have to separately file your proposed orders because you can't file them through the e-portal to the judicial system. And when the judges sign an order, it has to come to my staff in a queue because it can put it to my queue. It just can't communicate to the portal. So it can communicate it to our queue, and then our staff, God help us with the funding. We've lost 110 positions since 2009. So it has to wait for my staff to go, and we have an emergency queue that says immediate attention. These are orders, get them done as fast as you can. We number one prioritize them, but you only have so many people and so much time in a day. They have to get the order, make sure it's good, put it in the right case, docket it for whatever kind of order it is, put it on, hit release, do whatever pre-redaction needed. They have to process the darn thing before they can put it on my system, and then my system sends it to you all. So all service of court orders, notice, just anything coming out of the courts is done by the clerk's office here in Volusia County. That is not ideal because they also have queues of incoming that they have to get on and process. So it's a labor issue, it's a tech issue, and it's not ideal. I'm sorry for everybody that is the case. We've brought it up repeatedly. Is there any hope of the viewer, the judicial viewer, ever being able to do this? And we just continually bring it up, and we're hoping to get some progress soon. But if any of you feel strongly about that, our chief judge is Leah Case. You are welcome to reach out to Leah Case and just say, I understand there's some technology reason with your judicial system that we have to do all these separate filings of orders and it takes a long time to get them and all this. So we just vote for spend the money and get the system fixed, or whatever it is your opinion is. So I invite you to reach out and speak about that because I know it's impactful to your lives. Okay, so that was what I had in store to share. Are there any questions, comments, concerns? Anybody have anything in our last 5 minutes? Let me stop sharing the screen. There we go.
Thank you so much. Yeah, if anyone has any questions, please feel free to type them in the chat, or you should be able to unmute as well if you want to come off mute and ask your questions.
Great. I'm finally seeing the comments here. Thank you all for your comments that you did give. Oh, and then somebody gave, Sarah gave VolusiaParalegals@gmail.com. So at least there's an email. When I did that shameless pitch, I'm just asking all of y'all, I'm telling you, you'll get the bang for your buck. Your paralegals will be sharper, more informed, and they'll enjoy it because you get to eat, have a drink during the meetings. It's just great. So I really pray, and as many of you are interested, please write that Volusia Paralegals, forward that Gmail to your paralegals and ask them to write them and ask to join. Or come to a meeting, at least come see a meeting.
Yes, we definitely always try to keep their information in the newsletter. Again, just a reminder to please self-submit your CLE information. I typed the CLE number in the chat again for you. So please submit your CLEs, and I'll send out Laura's notes as well to all the registrants. So.
Yes, thank you. And if any of you, I really do mean that about, it's not just regular, everybody whines about funding. Probably half of you on the call don't feel like you have enough money either. So I get that. But ours has been absolutely catastrophic. Okay, it really has. I think they just don't see the need for clerks. And honestly, we get a whole lot of compliments about how helpful we are if we're so useless. We get a whole lot of thank God for you guys. So if any of you have legislative influence or know anyone, we are just so desperate. So, put it this way, I'll give you one stat. Pick a court partner. This is true of all of our court partners, but let's pick the courts, the judges with their JAs. Over the last decade, they have had 45% increase in funding to my 6%. If you back it up 15 years, clerks have had 1% growth. So I want you to picture living on what you had 15 years ago on today's prices. And that's what's happened to us. So we're just desperate for funding. Anybody that knows any funding source, we could really use it. Thank you all so much. I appreciate you letting me do this.
And thank you, Laura. We really appreciate your time and expertise. And thank you all for joining. I hope to see you soon. We do have a VCBA social at the Chart House on November 20th. So I hope to see you all there. We have a lot of great events coming up. So please check out our newsletter. You should have gotten a copy of that yesterday, or everything's on our website as well. So I hope to see you all again very soon. Thank you so much. Bye.